4 out of 5 business owners who try to sell their business end up failing. And that's a big number. It's a scary number. And I want you to chew on that for a second, because these aren't necessarily bad businesses that fail to sell. A lot of them are really profitable companies that show great numbers, that are built by really good business owners who've spent years, sometimes 10, 20, or 30 or more years doing the hard work, doing what matters, and building something great. But when it comes time to turn that business into an exit and get out, somehow something doesn't quite add up. And if you're thinking about selling someday, whether that's this year or 5 years from now, that's the problem that we built the Exitworthy Assessment to help you avoid. So maybe you're in your 30s and 40s and you've built something really great and realize that you've built it so big that you don't know how to run it anymore. Or maybe you're getting into your 50s and your 60s and you're starting to wonder what the next chapter of life looks like for you. Maybe you've built a business that's making good money, but most, if not all, of your net worth is still tied up inside the company. Or maybe you have really no intention of selling right now, but you've reached the point where you're starting to ask a really, really important question. And that's, what the hell is this thing that I've spent so much of my life building actually worth? And that's a great question, and that's a valid question. But let me call out the big elephant in the room right away. We don't do the Exitworthy Assessment for free. In fact, we charge $19.97 for this. And sure, you can absolutely go get a free valuation from plenty of people out there. And we deliberately don't do that. And I'll explain why in a minute. But first, let me dig into what we actually do with our Exitworthy Assessment. So we start with your numbers. And we take a look at your actual financial information, and we look at the business the way a buyer is going to look at it. We normalize the financials. We look at the earnings and the legitimate adjustments. We look at your industry, the market, the kinds of multiples that businesses like yours are actually trading for. But that's just the beginning. We take that and we build a valuation report based on the same sort of algorithms and multiples that the SBA and other bankers and other financial folks try to look at. And that gives us an idea of what the business might be worth today on paper. But knowing what your business is worth on paper and what the financials say is really only a small part of the equation, because you can have two very different companies that produce the exact same earnings and be worth wildly different amounts in the eyes of a buyer. You see, company one runs without the owner. It has clean financials, it has recurring customers and a strong management team. But company two can depend on the owner for everything, has a couple of customers that make up almost all of the revenue, and financials that really nobody can even explain. They have the same financials, the same earnings, but they're very different businesses with a very different value in the eyes of buyers. And that's why the second major piece, and probably the most important piece of our assessment, is what we call the 16 value boosters. When we look at the 16 value boosters, we're looking under the hood of the business. We're looking deeper than just what the last 3 years of financial statements will say, or deeper than what some industry average multiple of cash flow would represent. We start looking at things like, how dependent is the company on you as the owner? How concentrated are their customers? How strong is your management team? How predictable is your revenue? How transferable are the relationships within the business? What kind of capital does the business require to run? Where's the growth and what does it look like? Where's the risk and what does it look like? Where are the things that a buyer could look at and say, I'm willing to pay more for that, and hopefully a lot more for that? Because as you go down the path of selling your business and start digging in deeper with a buyer, eventually the buyer isn't just buying last year's tax return or the average of the last few years of tax returns. They're buying future cash flow of the business, and they're taking on the risk of producing that cash flow year after year after you leave. And that's the part that we really need to understand to get an idea of what your business is truly worth. So when we're finished with the assessment, you're going to have both a business valuation report and the 16 value boosters report. And once we have both of those, we're going to sit down with you and walk you through it, walk you through what it means. What do the numbers mean? What are all of the pieces that come into play so you can get an idea of what the business is worth, not just on paper, but in the eyes of a buyer. Because if you're going to make a decision on exiting your business, I need you to understand what we think the business is worth. And I need you to understand why. And I need you to know where the buyers are likely to push back in the future. And ultimately, I need you to understand what your options are from here. Because the standard I hold us to on deciding whether we did our job with an assessment. If we never, ever, 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 ever talk again after we deliver the assessment, I want you to leave this process armed with enough information to make the right decision for you and your family and your business, your employees, and everything else that's important to you and everybody else who's depending on what happens next to your business. Because that's the whole damn point of this, is getting you clarity. I don't need you to hire us at Sagewood to sell the business. I don't need you to buy more advanced products and services from Exitworthy. I don't even need you to sell your business. But what I need you to do is understand what you own, what it's worth, what's driving that value, what could put it at risk, and what your realistic options are for next steps. Because then once you understand all of those things, you get to decide what happens next. Maybe you're ready to sell. Awesome, great. If you want help with that transaction, we can have that conversation. Maybe we see that you're a few years out and there's some things that are worth working on first. Great, awesome. That's why we offer the trail map and some other advanced exit strategy services. Or maybe you look at everything and decide the smartest thing you can do is actually keep the damn business. And that's a perfectly good answer too. Our assessment is supposed to give you the information you need to make that decision instead of guessing and instead of pushing any sort of nasty sales process on you. And the best part is, we stick around after we deliver the assessment. You've got 90 days of access to us included. If something changes, call us. If something comes up as you talk about this with your spouse, your business partner, or other people, call us. If you have questions, ask us. Or if you're like most owners, making this major decision in your business isn't something you take lightly. You're going to want to understand how these decisions affect value and the exit strategy. So when that comes up, let's talk about it. And if some private equity firm or competitor or search fund or some random dude drops into your inbox tomorrow wanting to buy your company and sends you an offer, send it over. We're here for you. We'll help you figure out exactly what you're looking at, what you're working with, and if it makes sense for you. And after that initial period, if you want to keep us around, we can talk about what that looks like too. We'll keep answering questions, we'll keep the assessment current, and we'll help you think through the things that you need to think through as your business changes. So now rewinding back to why we charge $19.97 in the first place. Sure, I get it. You can find online calculators that'll spit out a number in just a few minutes. And let's be honest, you can find plenty of business brokers out there who would love to give you a free valuation. But there's really no such thing as a free valuation, just like there's no such thing as a free lunch, and there's sure as hell no such thing as a free drink. See, the way I see it, a business broker offering you a free valuation is a little bit like that dude who sits at the end of the bar offering to buy the pretty lady a drink. Sure, maybe he's just a generous guy and offers free drinks from the goodness of his heart. But that's probably not the case, right? We all have a pretty good idea of what he's hoping happens next. And that's the big problem. There's a certain expectation attached to that free valuation. So when I created this, we wanted to remove that from the equation completely. So it's pretty simple. You pay us $19.97, we do the work. You're the client, and that gives us permission to tell you the truth. If I think your business is worth more than you thought, I'm going to tell you. If I think your business is worth less than you thought, I'm going to tell you. If I think you're ready to sell and it makes sense, I'm going to tell you. If I think you've got 3 years of work to do before looking at selling it, I'm going to tell you that too. And if I think selling right now would be the worst decision ever, you bet your ass I'm telling you that as well. Because you see, in this process, you've already paid us for the answer. You've already paid us for the truth. And that's what you're buying, is the truth about what makes sense for you to do next. I want you to walk away from this process knowing exactly what you've built, what it's worth, what's helping you, what's hurting you, and really what your options are. But what you decide to do from there is up to you. And that's how the Exitworthy Assessment works. Let's figure out where you stand. So if you're ready to get started, click the link below to sign up and we'll get you going right away. And if you still have more questions or want to know more about the process, that's okay too. There's another link below where you can schedule a time with my team and ask whatever questions you have before we get started.